we'll probably give it
Leave
another
that on, leave the light on.
couple minutes because we had quite a few more people RSVP whose names I don't see on here yet. But just so everyone knows, this is somewhat a presentation. Caleb is going to talk about training. He's our head coach from Team Wicked Bonkproof, and Priscilla is going to talk about some of the race logistics and your aid station charts and your cutoffs and your drop bags, like all the the important stuff. But if you have questions, even if you think it's little or obvious, just ask, because someone is probably wondering the same thing, especially if they're new. If you want to put it in the chat, you can put it in there. You can raise your hand. This is meant to be a chance to not just to answer questions, but also start to build the community. So by all means, if you have something, even if you feel like there's a good space, you can go off mic. While we're waiting for a couple more people to join, I am curious for you to put in the chat just where are you from and what distance are you either doing or thinking about doing, just because it's fun for us to start to know who we're talking to. And I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Megan. I do the marketing for Trivium. I did the 50K at Highball last year, and I'll be doing it again this year because I do get off the hook for race day, unlike Priscilla, who is one of the race directors. So Priscilla, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sorry, I'll get back on the camera in a minute. I have a small human attached to me at the moment. I'm Priscilla. I'm one of the race directors for Trivium and for Highball Thurmond. Did the 55K 2 years ago, did the 50K 27 weeks pregnant last year. I would say this race is Megan and I's baby. We absolutely love and adore this race. So we really, really love to mingle with our athletes and share the sheer beauty of this race and all the special things that come with it.
Yeah. And we do have several of our ambassadors who are on right now have done this race before. So we know we've got lots of, between like Grace and Nicole. And I can't remember, Taylor, have you done this one before? Were you a volunteer in the past, or?
No, I'm totally new, brand new.
That's right. Perfect. So we got lots of people who have past experience. And then we've got Coach Caleb, who has coached this for the last few years. So Caleb, I will go ahead and turn it over to you if you are ready.
Yep, definitely.
Awesome. All right, go for it.
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name's Caleb Masland. I am a running coach with TWB Running, aka Team Wicked Bonkproof, and we've been doing official race training plans for Trivium races for this is the 6th year, 5th or 6th year, I think 5th actually. 2022 is the first year we did race training plans. But this is the 3rd year we've done plans for Highball. So excited to talk to you all about some general training principles for ultras, and then some specific things for this race. As was mentioned earlier, if you have any questions and you don't want to ask out loud, feel free to put those in the chat and I'll just go, I'll weave those in as I can. We only got one question ahead of time, which I've already got the information for in the presentation. So I'll get right to it. Just give me 1 second while my screen sharing starts. Okay, so just a little bit about TWB Running. If you're not familiar with us from any of the other races that we've done plans for in the past, I started this coaching business a little bit over 17 years ago and made it my full-time job in 2013. There are 4 other coaches that work with me, and we train athletes of all experience levels for all distances all around the world. If you have any questions about training, whether or not you are using one of our training plans for this race or really anything, feel free anytime to shoot an email to our general contact email address, which is on the page right there. Be happy to answer questions about pretty much anything running. And in addition to coaching, trail ultra stuff, we also work with a lot of road marathoners and even people on the track. So if you or anybody you're interested or is interested in learning more about what we do or have any questions about running, feel free to drop us a line anytime. I wanted to give a quick overview of the plans that are available for this race. So we built 4 different training plans for the 50K 50 miler. So 2 for each distance. There's sort of a beginner level and an advanced level for each one. Those training plans are 20 weeks in length, and a bunch of people are already using that, and they're about 1 week into training. They started on December 29th. So if you are at the point where you think you might need some structure, there is a link to these training plans on the Run Sign Up page, and that'll take you over to my website where you can purchase a training plan. The 20-week plans are only $35, and they integrate with Training Peaks, GPS watches, all sorts of good stuff. So if you feel like you need a little bit of structure, this might be helpful for you, and there's a bunch of different options. I'll hit one of the questions immediately that we got ahead of time, which was, what are the longest long run distances recommended? It was asked about the 50K, but for the 50K and the 50 mile, our plans go up to about 25 to 27 miles for the 50K. Many of you may have seen plans that go as far as only 20, 21, 22 miles. We have a lot of a focus on long runs in our plans so that people are super ready for the distance. And for the 50 miler, we go 30 to 32 miles, depending on which level of plan you're using. A lot of people like to plug in a tune-up race for a 50K that could be like a trail marathon. So that would be a really good last long run. Or for a 50 miler, a lot of people like to plug in a 50K trail race as a tune-up. So you could easily just slot that in if it fits with your training, like 3 to 5 weeks out from race day as your biggest long run. But those are the distances that we recommend and that you would see on our training plans if you were using one. All right, so I want to talk generally for a little bit about ultramarathon training. So right now, we're about 19 weeks away from race day. And so you have a ton of opportunity to work on these keys to ultramarathon success in your training cycle. So whether this is your first ultra and the first time that you're stepping up to maybe the 50K distance, or maybe you are really experienced and you've done 50 milers, 100 milers, whatever, and you're coming back for more, you may have noticed through previous training cycles that something is always going to go sideways no matter what you do. So what I want to say just, at the outset here is, don't expect for everything to go really well, but try to do your best to focus on what I would say are the 4 keys to being successful in an ultramarathon. First and foremost, try to focus on consistency in your training. So I would always rather see an athlete have a consistent cycle, of hitting however many runs per week works for them, week after week after week, versus trying to get an arbitrary amount of distance and doing too much and then having to take weeks off or getting a little injury or something like that. So as you're thinking about how you want to handle the next 19 odd weeks of training, make sure that the level you're doing is something that you can consistently do week in, week out, and that you have a schedule that is very repeatable and easy for you to follow week after week. So your body's going to be a lot happier and it's going to adapt better if you have this consistent routine, because our bodies really like a repeatable cycle. So instead of worrying, a lot about hitting big mileage as a general rule, I would say focus more on just being consistent for the next 18 to 19 weeks. When it comes to long runs, you're probably not going to get every single one on your training plan done. Something might come up with a family member or work or whatever it might be. But if you hit most of your long runs and focus on those as kind of the primary area where you're going to get race ready, then you're going to be in a really good spot in May. So try to hit most of the long runs on your plan, and definitely prioritize those over other things if you have to shuffle things around. So if something comes up on the weekend and you know in advance that you're not going to be able to run on Saturday when you usually do your long run, maybe try to make it a priority to do that on Friday or Sunday so that you still get that specific stimulus in, since it's the most valuable for an ultramarathon. Third, train your gut. Start now. Don't start fueling only in the last few weeks of your training cycle, and make sure you're trying a variety of different things so you know what works well for you and you know what you need to avoid. Everybody will have different reactions to different calorie sources. Some people, may be fine with one type of sugar that can be found commonly in a lot of gels, and another one might be problematic. So if you haven't found options that work really well in previous training and racing cycles, now is the time to start playing around with that and make sure that you're training your gut not only for taking in, like quick carbs, which you're going to need, but also taking in some solid food right before and maybe during some of your easier runs, some of your long runs, practicing fluids, practicing electrolytes, just making sure that anything that you might put in your body on race day, you have some familiarity with and is going to work well for you. At some point, there will be, I'm sure, a slide shown on the screen that shows the aid station list. That's a really good starting point to figure out what you might want to use for fuel on race day, because it's going to be available. So if you know that Tailwind agrees with you, then awesome, you're going to be good to go in terms of fluids and electrolytes, because that's on the course and ubiquitously available. If there's stuff on there that doesn't work for you, then you're going to have to come up with other options and train with that, and then have a plan for how you're going to carry it on race day. So just make sure that particularly during your long runs, eating and drinking and training your gut is a huge part of what you want to do. And then last, prioritize keeping your body healthy. So, you want to be consistent, you want to hit most of your long runs, but none of that's going to really matter if you have to take a bunch of weeks off because you get an injury or you get burned out. So do the amount of training that works for you and make sure that you're sticking with the little things that are going to help you stay healthy throughout your training cycle. And that means consistent sleep schedules. It means taking care of nutrition in between runs. It means having, good quality protein and carbs as soon as possible after intense workouts and runs. But take care of your body and it will take care of you on race day.
And everyone, I did put the link to the aid station chart in the in-call chat, and then Priscilla and I will talk about that later.
All right, so a little more specific drill downs on training for an ultra. Think about the concept of fatigue resistance. So most of what you're going to be doing is making sure that your muscles are ready to manage fatigue. If you're running on a trail for 50K or 50 miles, you're going to be out there for a long time. And eventually, the thing that's most likely going to get in the way of continuing to move forward is tired muscles. So as you are kind of going through your training cycle, here are some things that you should think about including or focusing on so that you're building in as much fatigue resistance as possible. First, include strength and core work. So if you're not somebody who regularly strength trains, I would recommend doing that a couple of times per week. If you're not familiar with strength training and it's not something you regularly do, start small and build So, start with body weight exercises, and you can progress to more like traditional weight training over time, but it's something that you should be doing a couple of times per week at least. And if you're the type of a person who already has a good strength training schedule, maintain that throughout your training cycle. Don't drop that, because strength resistance training is really, really valuable when you're getting ready for an ultramarathon. Do some of your long runs in a already fatigued state. So this may mean that you are doing some of your biggest long runs at the tail end of a really big week on your training cycle, but also you might want to do some things like putting, chunks of miles close together, whether that's doing back-to-back long runs on maybe a Saturday, Sunday, or running, something like a longer long run and then just a regular run the next day for sort of a recovery run, so that you have to work through those feelings of sort of being tired, and you can train your body to resist that fatigue a little bit better. If it works for your schedule, try to do some of your runs where you're actually like doing what we would call a recovery run. We have sort of runs after all of the long run days on all of our training plans, and that's specific for this fatigue resistance. So you just did something big the day before, and then the next day, all you're doing is going out and really, really easily sort of shuffling through a run. But what you're doing there is teaching your body how to manage active recovery, and also, like I said, that muscular fatigue resistance. And then, very importantly, practice for the race course. So this course has some really steep sections. It has a variety of terrain. And so make sure that you are, to the degree that you can, with the facilities and trails and other things around you, make sure you're practicing for some steep uphills, some steep downhills. Do some runs on softer surface, do some runs on, like crushed gravel or in pavement, vary things, and just look at the course route information, which Megan just posted, and then get ready for that and be ready to handle that from a sort of a fatigue perspective on race day. So those are the big things there.
Hey, Caleb,
Go for it.
do you want to take a couple of questions right now about some of the stuff on this sheet? Sorry,
Right.
on this, what you just talked about.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so do you have a preference, or do you find that cross training on the bike or the stair stepper, or that there's like a particular kind of cross training that's good when you have a race like this? Because the 50K has around 3,000 feet and the 50 mile has around 5,000 feet.
Yep.
Or if not cross training, like some specific strength work.
Sure. Yeah. So I can give you examples of both that I would include. So oftentimes a non-running day, that if we want to do some like specific prep. So let's say we're not focusing on just having days where you want to have like sort of a active recovery stimulus, and you're using cross training in a lower intensity kind of a way. But for some specific course prep, I would do, if you can get on a treadmill and just set the incline really high and do some power hiking at 14 to 16%, at whatever like pace feels comfortable for you. That's a really, really valuable way to prepare for longer uphills, because you're going to be engaging muscles that you just don't use unless you're at that type of a grade. If you have a bike and you can do like a Peloton or any of the other sorts of like bikes, and you can do some longer endurance focused rides that have heavier gearing, that's also another really good way to engage those muscles, particularly if you get out of the saddle and you're standing. So those two are really, really good to prepare for climbing. People do use Stairmasters or like stair climbers at the gym, and that can be okay, but it's a little bit of a different type of a like neuromuscular stimulus. So that'll build your quads a lot, but it won't necessarily work on some of the other things that you would see on a really steep course. So I like something that's sustained and steep or heavy for a while. in terms of strength, I think that the biggest thing you're going to be building for with a course like this, or any course with a lot of elevation change, is that sort of like dead quads and calves that you get from all of the repetitive impact, and particularly the steeper downhills. And so anything that engages the big muscles in your legs, particularly sets of things that get close to fatigue, are really good. So if you know how to safely do squats with a heavy bar, trap bar deadlifts, anything else that is quad and glute focused, so like step ups on a bench or step downs off of a bench, all that sort of stuff is really good because it forces both concentric and eccentric muscle contraction, so it protects against that repetitive pounding sort of stuff that you can get in longer races like this. So yeah, heavy, big muscle leg strength, and then like long, grindy, climby type stuff is what I would recommend.
And I will say, I mean, I knew that, and then last year, it didn't matter what I did, the quads from the downhills are what got me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing too is just course management, right? So, and we'll talk about this a lot when we do our second virtual clinic right before the taper, but some of that course management stuff is knowing when to power hike or sort of stroll the downhill or the steep uphill, so that you're giving back a little bit of time in the moment, but you're also saving your muscles for later in the race when you have flatter terrain that you can actually run. So yeah, it's a little bit of both, preparing for it, but also just managing things on race day.
All right.
Okay, that was my last slide. Any other questions from other folks?
Yeah.
So when you're doing the longer runs,
Yep.
what is the recommended carbs per hour on the intake and stuff like that, just to maintain fuel and kind of just maintain yourself as you move through the race and your training runs?
So yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up. I would say one, if you're going to do something like intense during the week, so like the faster workout days and any of your longer runs, I think before all runs, personally, you should be eating before you go. So I like a kind of like balanced carb heavy breakfast of 300 to 500 calories about 90 minutes before something longer. And then during those long runs, I would shoot for a bare minimum of about 60 grams of carbohydrates, 240 calories per hour. That's like the low end of what I would recommend. And then if you can successfully take in more and feel good doing so, then that's great. Some ultra marathoners, and it's really, really like in vogue right now, are pushing super high caloric intake, super high carb. You'll see people who are taking in upwards of 700 calories every single hour during long runs and races. Most people have a hard time doing that. Once you get to about 90 grams of carbs per hour is when most people start to sort of like peter out in terms of being able to take more. But I would shoot for a minimum of 240 calories of carbohydrates per hour. And then you're going to supplement a little bit of that with some solid stuff. So you'll get some proteins and you'll get a little bit of fat and other sorts of things that are going to actually make your stomach feel better the longer and longer you're out there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel I guess I'm just curious right now, Caleb, where would someone's long run comfortably be right now, heading into like 50K, 50 mile, like
You're talking distance or
distance or time? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be different. Our training plans start a little bit high, and so 20 weeks out. I mean, I've worked with people who are 5 months out from a 50K running 8 miles for a long run, and we build, and they don't get to a super long run until 4 weeks before the race. Our training plans for the 50K start around 12 to 14 miles. So like last weekend would have been a 12-miler. And then for the 50-miler, they're a little bit higher, on the order of like 16 to 18, and then building from there. I think that, again, back to kind of what I said at the beginning, if you're prioritizing like long runs as your primary training stimulus, you can get away with lots of shorter runs during the week so that you're recovering well, and have a little bit more of a focus on those longer ones. So that's kind of why our plans start high and stay high. But there's lots of different ways to do it. If there's anybody on the call here that like recently just ran a 10K and you want to do the 50K, you can get there. Just make sure you're adding, a mile and a half, 2 miles per week. And then, 9-10 weeks from now, that means you're going to already be up in the high teens or into the low 20s. And you're going to be completely fine. So wherever you are, you can manage it. Just make sure that you're getting to having, some long runs in the low to mid 20s for the last 3 or 4 weeks before you taper for a few weeks before race day.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the taper when we have that second call. It's specifically scheduled so that we can talk about the taper.
Yep.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any more questions for Caleb? You can either type it or come off mic.
I have one more. Thank you. How important is it to continue to run in zone 2 through those long runs? I feel like I start pretty good in zone 2, and then as I go longer, it just kind of creeps up into those upper zones and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. And that's I would worry a lot more about like maintaining a lower intensity zone for like general aerobic runs during the week. So just like your easy days and recovery days. For all of my athletes, if we're doing anything where we have a heart rate or intensity zone thing worked in, we have a much bigger range for long runs because it's very, very normal for that heart rate drift, it's called, to happen, right? Because as you go, you get a little bit more metabolic waste building up in your bloodstream. And so oxygen carrying capacity goes down and your ability to maintain a low heart rate also decreases as a result. So it's okay if your heart rate has that normal long run drift, very, very normal. So some general ranges, and everybody's going to be a little bit different, but I'm in my mid 40s. And for my easy days, I try to shoot for under 135 beats per minute. And I can get up to 140 or 145 very, very briefly if I go up a hill or something. For long runs, I expand that out to about 155, which is just below my aerobic threshold. And so if I start to hit what is my aerobic threshold, then it's time to back off significantly. And that may be, slowing down to a slow jog, or if you're out running on trails and the terrain is kind of calling the shots a little bit in terms of if your heart rate is going up or down, then you just take a walk break. That's totally fine. But there's nothing inherently evil or bad about getting beyond that zone 2. It just means that your body is dealing with a little bit more intensity in the moment. What I don't want people doing is just doing all of their runs at a high intensity level, because then you're just going to get burned out. So for your regular runs during the week, those are the days to make sure you're nice and easy, and you can check that with your breathing. If you could have a conversation with a running partner, then you're running easily enough. Or if you have an accurate heart rate monitor, then you can use that to sort of check that you're in the right zone. Yeah, okay, so I'm seeing a couple other fun questions. Nicole says, our gym just got the compression style legs for recovery. So like Normatec type things you're talking. Any reason to not use? No, those are awesome. I would not use them every day. I would use them a couple times per week maximum, just because they are going to cause a little bit of micro damage if you are using them all the time. It's the same thing like with a foam roller or a massage gun. Like they're good until the point where they start to cause little bits of damage. So, but those are awesome and they do help. And I would definitely work those in if I had access to them for sure.
Is that, is there a pressure? So it goes all the way up to like level 9 on pressure.
Yeah.
And then is that like right after a run or?
Yeah. So what I would do is it's kind of like anything where you get progressively more and more used to it. So the first time you put the boots on, you might be able to, it might feel like it's getting really a lot of pressure when you get up to level 4 or 5 or whatever. And then as you get more used to it, you can go a little bit higher. So what those are doing is they're basically squeezing all the capillary blood out of your muscles and then letting it refill. And that it helps with inflammation and it also helps with the healing process. So dealing with all the micro damage that happens during training. So using it right after is a really good thing. If you've ever seen like professional bike races or other like professional things where they do lots of things on successive days, you'll see they finish and then as soon as possible, they're getting a massage or they're jumping in those Normatec boots. So right after a run or a weightlifting session is a really good time because it's going to help flush out metabolic waste. And it's also going to help with that capillary like squeezing and refilling. That is part of the adaptation and regeneration process. So that's how I would use them.
And then Zach asked, there was some more chatter, but he was talking about there's a long climb at mile 6.
Yep.
And it's steep.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have access to a long climb, then I would use a treadmill, and I would do a sustained uphill session. So the way I would structure that, if you want to try one, is you can either warm up outside or warm up with the belt like between 0 and 1%. And then I would set it to something that is steep, but not like too steep that you feel like you're going to fall off the back of the treadmill. So for a sustained climb, even though it's not going to be as steep as the hill probably on course, I would go to a maximum of say 7 or 8%. And then I would just you could do this as a sort of a progressive build. So the first time you do it, you might do a 15-minute or 10-minute sustained climb. So warm up 10 to 15 minutes with the belt up and whatever pace feels manageable, and then cool down. And then build that out until you're doing climbs that are 25, 30 minutes long. And you're going to start to feel a whole lot more power just doing general uphill climbing, and you'll be ready for that sort of sustained long climb on the course, because that's a type of a thing where you're going to get to a fatigue point at some point. So if you've like trained your body up to the, your kind of personal maximum and built it out, then you'll do a whole lot better on longer climbs like that.
All right. I feel like we could keep asking Caleb training questions all day.
I'll be here. So if you guys want to do your spiel, and then if we have time at the end, I'm happy to answer more, because I'll be here as usual.
Yeah. So Caleb will stay on. And if you do have training questions while Priscilla is going through race specific stuff, then you can put them in the chat. You can ask them after Priscilla's finished talking. But we could, and maybe we can do this at the end in more detail, look at the elevation profiles in Strava, because there are some crazy climbs, but it's worth making sure everyone kind of zooms in and looks at the, what is that, the y-axis, and like how many miles they're over and what the grades are. And then at the end, or I shouldn't say the end, but later in the race, there's a pretty flat section. So, if you can save your quads. But right now we're going to turn it over to Priscilla. And if you have any questions right now that you want to drop in the chat about logistics or shuttles or aid stations or cutoffs, go ahead and put them in the chat. But Priscilla, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much, Caleb.
Sorry, forgot I was on mute there for a second. All right, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. My brain is like fried, so I'm gonna do my very best to give you the best we can. So I'm not going to get very course specific this time. We will get course specific at the next one. There are a few minor changes that are still in the talks of being done, so I don't want to get very into the course and then there be some changes there with that. If you're familiar with the course that we did last year, the small tweaks that there's chatter about is a little less K-More Minor trail, which is in my opinion one of the more difficult parts. We would use something. It's also the part that gets really chewed up with that adventure race that likes to be on the same weekend. So it would change that a little bit better for us in that regard. So that has not been completely solidified yet. So you're hearing insider information that may or may not happen, but we won't go over that. What I will show you is the aid station chart. We'll start there. So for us, this is our aid station chart. It does say 2025 because it has not been completely set in stone yet, but this is pretty much what it's going to look like. So I have no problem giving you this as a rough draft. That's pretty close. So for aid station number 1, so 50 milers, 5.9 miles in, there is no potty here, so you may make sure you use the potty in the beginning. We will have water, tailwind, and Huma at every aid station. Huma is the gel of choice that we use at Trivium races. We also like to put the flavor of tailwind on all of our aid station that will be at every aid station. So if you don't do caffeine, that you know that you need to account for something else for that aid station, whether you have some individual packets in your bag just in case, or usually we have at least a few that you can ask for the most part. So that first aid station is bananas, trail mix, Huma, something you can take and go with. Second aid station, 9.7 miles in, will have a toilet. Again, water, tailwind, Huma, but now you're getting potato chips, fruit cups, chocolate covered almonds, cashews, something of that nature. We always have salty, sweet. We'll always have a salty, we'll always have a sweet. And again, we'll always have a gel. So it kind of goes from there. The number 3, water, tailwind, we start adding Coke at this one. Peanut butter or cheese crackers, M&Ms, pickles, hummus wraps, bacon, Huma. The next one isn't really an aid station. It's a bathroom where it's just not at an aid station. So that's why it's listed here. Number 4 is where the 50K comes in. It's at mile 20 for the 50 miler, 1.5 for the 50K. Again, water, tailwind, Coke, and then peanut butter and jelly, pickles, gummy bears, trail mix, Huma. This is also the first drop bag for the 50 milers. Usually where our drop bags are, we have peanut butter and jelly just because it's an easy thing. We are counting that if you are really wanting something, it's going to be in your drop bag. And we'll talk about drop bags when we get through this. So that one's a little bit lighter on food. Aid station number 5 is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful spots on the course. You're going to be right under the bridge, staring up at it. Having descended some pretty big descents here, so you're going to be really excited to take a little break. 25.7 for the 50 mile, 7.2 for the 50K. Water tailwind, pretzels, mixed candy, pierogies, which went over very well last year. Everybody loved the pierogies, so they will be back. Grapes and huma. I will say before we move on to the next one, we also have first aid, feminine products, salt tabs and electrolyte tabs, and Vaseline at every aid station. So know that you can always ask for that if needed.
But I will say this, they're not going to necessarily have everything laying out on the table because it can fly away. It can get lost in all the
disgusting
foods. Yeah, it's covered in sugar. So if you need something and you don't see it, just ask the volunteers.
They have a whole medical box that can have anything that you possibly need in there. So do just know that that's there. Kmore Miners is 31.6 and 33, 12.6 and 14. Again, if the course changes at all, this is going to shift a little, but again, the aid station and the food that it has will not. The aid station may move, but the food that aid station has will not. So I feel confident going over this with you. So here, if it stays the same, it's like you stop at the aid station and do like this little out and back thing. It's actually very pretty, and you come back. It has, sorry, I lost my place for a second. Water, Tailwind, Coke, Trail Mix, Gummy Bears, bean and cheese wraps did not go well. So we're looking at doing cheese quesadillas in replacement of that, or grilled cheese or something like that. So know that that's probably what will be there. Sorry if it sounds like there's pterodactyls in the background. There are, but they're in the other room. We start having broth here as well. Nobody took broth last year, but we have had people ding us before saying that they want it, so we will have it. There will be veggie and chicken, so there's an option. When we get to number 7, this is the next drop bag aid station. So drop bag 2 for 50 miles, drop bag your only drop bag for 50K, so 39.4 and 20.8. Water, Tailwind, Coke, and then peanut butter, jelly, pickles, gummy bears, bacon, bananas. This is an aid station that you will be so excited to see. You get in this, I swear to God, there's a wormhole between 6 and 7. There's a wormhole that eats you somewhere in there, and you like cannot get out. So Nicole's laughing because she knows there's a wormhole in there somewhere, and you just get stuck, and you're like, where the hell is the aid station? You're really excited when you get there. There is actually a lot of room at this aid station, so there'll be chairs for you that you can sit down, take a rest. Again, we'll get to drop bags in a second. And Caleb will agree with me when I tell you about the drop bags. We've done this enough that we talk about the same things on our drop bags. Number 8 is pretty close to number 7, because after that, there's a really long time before we can get to anything where we're able to actually bring things in. It says there's a public restroom. There is a public restroom, but it is before the aid station. It is like a, well, it's exactly what it says. It's the public restroom. So we're going into like where people river raft and stuff. We will try to put out a potty sign this time because people missed it last time. There is a public restroom, but you're going to have to look for it. It is not at the aid station. Just before you get there. Water, Tailwind, ginger ale, and then peanut butter crackers, Oreos, jelly beans, broth, pierogies again. There's another wormhole between 8 and 9. When you get to 9, nobody's going to be able to come see you there. It is literally in the middle of the woods, and we can only pray that Missy has a train horn there again, because it is really nice when you hear that train horn and you can't wait to get out of that wormhole to get to the Rice Krispie treats, which saves your life. Water, Tailwind, potato chips, dried fruit, Rice Krispie treats, beef jerky, and then your next one is the finish line. Any questions about aid stations before we move on? I love that Nicole just keeps shaking her head every time I say something, because it confirms that I'm not crazy, that these things are really happening.
And I will point out, we have at least one or two relay runners on the call right now. And this is a really good resource for relay teams because we have the parking column, and we don't want anyone to get disqualified because they are hanging out in an area where they should not be. So just make sure that your team is looking at the aid station chart.
Also, I'm glad you said that, Megan. Thank you. We're making a relay guide. We're working on it because the parking is really funky here. We're working on a relay guide that relay teams will have, specifically that tells you that has Google Pins exactly where to go, because you can get lost here very easy, and things like that. So keep your eyes peeled. We're still working on that. We'll also have a spectator guide. Again, Google Pins can tell you where to park for your crew and things like that. There's not a lot of service here. It is pretty service dead throughout the whole thing. So it's really important that your crew have things downloaded offline for this race so that they can actually find you if you're expecting to see them. All right, I'm going to go to, we'll do the 50 mile first. So this is the 50 mile checkpoints and cutoffs. Cutoff times, especially the ones that say hard cutoff, we will not let you go any further. It's unsafe for you. So you can cuss at us and be angry at us, and that's okay. We will not let you go if it's not safe. So for the 50 mile, there are two different starts, obviously, the early start and the late start. So your first hard cutoff is not until mile 6, and that's 2 p.m. hard cutoff for early start and 2:25 for the late start. And that the difference here is that you're moving at a different pace, more than likely. If you start early, so you're 4:45, you should be averaging 16:48, and if you start at 6 a.m., 15:19 in order to hit these cutoffs. Your hard cutoff at the second drop bag aid station, which is number 7, is 3:45 and 4. And at Cunard, again, we have to be here as well, because if you're not hitting those cutoffs, then you're stuck in the woods for a while. Is 4:15 and 4:30. I will say this: if you are moving at a really good pace and you're making the minimum pace for this 4:30, but you started here, they're not going to know that you started early, and they're going to let you go. So this is more of a training purpose for the early start, because they're not going to know the difference, whoever is there cutting you off. It is just to help you keep those paces and know what you are trying to accomplish to make sure you get through here. I'm going to move to the 50K sheet. Give me 1 second. I'm going to close the door. Megan, if you want to talk about something so I can close the door to keep my pterodactyl noise out.
Grace did have a really good point. If you are not from West Virginia or you've never been there before, the mountain roads are very winding. And so if you have a crew who's trying, or a relay team that's trying to follow you from place to place, make sure that you're going to download the pins offline ahead of time to using Google Maps, but also just make sure you understand ahead of time how long it's going to take you to get from point to point, because it will take you longer than you would think to go, for example, 5 miles. It may take you an hour versus, 20 minutes or something like that. Thank you, Grace.
So for the 50K, you only have one really hard cutoff, and that's at your drop bag aid station. And that is 2:52 for that hard cutoff. Our goal is to beat the train. So your minimum pace for the 50K is a 22:39 for that pace. All right, let's see. I was going to talk about drop bags. That was the next thing. So your drop bag, sorry, this is on the 50K slide, but we've already talked about it for the 50 milers as well. More using this just as a reference. So your drop bag is 20 by 24 by 4. You could fit your kitchen sink in this drop bag. It is huge. The things I would recommend for your drop bag, especially for the 50 milers, your second drop bag, shoes, socks. You will become a new person if you just sit down and take 2 minutes to change your socks and shoes. Something we debate on this race all the time is whether you can run this race in road shoes. I always say wear trail shoes. Last year it rained. I don't know, Megan, how much was it? Rained 5 or 6 inches the week of the race.
We had new waterfalls last year.
We had new waterfalls. Yep, we ran through waterfalls that didn't exist. You could not do that race comfortably in a road shoe. I would say if you wanted to put road shoes on, I would do it at the second drop bag for the 50 milers or at the drop bag for 50K. There are some really muddy spots on Kmart miners that road shoes will even on a dry day will not do. You will be upset with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say I've seen people run it. I've seen people run it in road shoes. I think it really is going to be a last minute decision depending on the weather. I would not if you're from out of town, I would not show up with only one option. I would definitely show up with both options. There are some rocks that you climb in the final. What is it, like final few miles, everyone? I think is when we climb up the rocks.
It's right at 3 miles left.
Yeah.
Right after the aid station.
Just know what you prefer to climb up rocks in. But there is definitely a flat section towards the end that I wouldn't have minded a road shoe for, but then there were some rocks. So I was glad I was still in my trail shoes.
So just know your preference. If there's any rain the week of the race, it is there are some spots that will be pretty mucky. Nothing like, I don't know, nothing I'd write home about, but it's going to be it's a course that holds water in some places because it's got some really flat spaces. So in your drop bag, I would definitely do that. Any treats that you like really enjoy, put in your drop bag. Like I have a gluten allergy. Obviously our race does not have gluten. I mean, there are some things I can eat, of course, but because of my food allergy, I restock my backpack or my running vest at that drop bag with whatever food I needed, or I had treats in there for myself. So know that you probably want that. Anybody else have things that they like to keep in their drop bags that you want to throw in there?
I actually put so I'm a water snob, I'll be honest. And I actually froze a half a bottle of Crystal Geyser for the 50K. And by the time I got to it, it was thawed and I had very cold water to re-put in my bladder for hydration vest.
Yeah.
That is a great idea.
I had frozen sponges last year that I was very appreciative of. And yes, they were starting to defrost, but then I also just used them to wipe all the sweat off my face. Yeah.
I do like having a towel or baby wipes in mine so that I can wipe my face off. Not just my face, anything that feels like it needs to be wiped down and I'm just really gross at the moment. That's also refreshing.
I will say I wasn't overly concerned about sunscreen last year. I feel like I didn't really see a lot of, not because it wasn't nice out, but just,
no, I never saw any sun except
because
on
of the
that
canopy.
one road section. Yeah.
Yeah. Not because it wasn't nice. It was just, there's a lot of beautiful trees.
Bug spray. bug spray. Put bug spray in your drop bag. It can be buggy. I actually don't remember many bugs last year, but I do remember at one of our clinics, somebody that lives around there saying to put bug spray in their bag. And I may have put it in my bag. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, since I just accidentally went to this slide, Race Joy we do have for this race. I'm not gonna lie, I did not use Race Joy. My family I have Garmin, so we use Garmin Connect and do Garmin Live Track, and it actually worked the whole time. But we do have Race Joy. I did not get feedback from people last year, but I know if you cut off your Wi-Fi, it does not run your battery down, and it should pick you up most of the time throughout the course. Again, once you get to that drop bag aid station, you are literally in dead nowhere. There is just no service down there. But I got more service this year than I did last year because I was able to receive and send text messages in certain places before we got to Kmore Miners down till we started going back down.
But I think it's a really good point to make. Do not assume that your crew or relay team will be able to track you the entire time. That is a bad assumption to make. Priscilla, if you can I take over for just a second and share my screen to show something?
Absolutely.
All right. So everyone, I'm going to announce this via email and social and everything at some point later this week. But the city of Montgomery is allowing us to camp, and they finally enabled me to basically add this to our website. So I'll when you're on the website, it'll be under race info, and under race info is your camping, lodging, etc. Montgomery is obviously where the 50 miles starts. It's where the train will drop us all off at the very end. 50K runners, remember, you can take a shuttle to Montgomery on race morning. I'm sorry, you can take a shuttle from Montgomery to our 50K start on race morning if you would like to take the train at the end. Montgomery camping. So essentially, you can primitive camp, you can vehicle camp in like a Sprinter van or, your car. Some people did that last year. And essentially, the important things are there will be porta potties, but they won't have electricity or running water yet. And you can call Montgomery City Hall. The number will be on the website. Just don't start until next week. It sounds like the person is out of town until next week. But we'll be able to camp there. It's real inexpensive. It's $15 a night. If you want additional nights, these people in Montgomery are so sweet. They will accommodate us. So if you want to stay a little longer or come in on Thursday night or something like that, just ask. But essentially, Montgomery is the starting point, and then Fayetteville will be where packet pickup is. It's right in the middle, so Fayetteville would be a really good place to stay as well. Good luck staying in Thurmond. There's like one Airbnb, and I'm pretty sure it's already booked.
We book it for the race. Our
there you
race
go.
people book it.
It is literally 5 people live there, and they all volunteer on race day. But anyway, if you look on here, it'll give you the information about booking camping in Montgomery. So that's new. I think that's all that I wanted to show with that.
Megan
Priscilla,
has something else to show that nobody's seen yet.
oh, can I show it?
Well, we have approval enough.
Oh, okay. All right, Priscilla.
So we can show it.
All right. So hold on. Did I unshare?
Okay. While she looks for that,
sorry.
you did unshare your screen.
Okay. Hold on. Give me a second.
I was going to answer another question, or another thing that we talked about a lot last year was poles. People who like to use poles. So I hiked last year. I was 27 weeks pregnant again. I hiked it. Couldn't have done it without my poles. But I had a lot of people around me who didn't have poles that said they wish they did. Again, it rained a lot that week. So it was muddy, and they were just, they would have been more comfortable with them because there were some spots that it was really slippery. Um, I think what the consensus really is that if you're a pole person and you like poles, they would be nice to use before you get to your drop bag and then drop them off at your drop bag. They're not needed after that. So if you're a pole person and that's one of your things that you're thinking about, poles before if you're doing the 50 miles a second drop bag, poles before that would be helpful, not necessary. And then after that, if you wanted to get rid of them, you would be perfectly fine doing so.
Yeah.
Can
Okay. So, go ahead. Go.
Can I counter that for just 1 second? So for me, I was actually thinking of this year, I didn't use them at all, but for me, very long flat sections are actually harder. So I was going to actually throw them in my drop bag for the second section. So that I
used them
had
the
that
whole
extra
time and
assistance.
loved them. I mean, I loved them the whole time, but I get what you're
Okay.
saying for the long straight because I was exhausted and they were helpful
Okay, good.
in the last
Good.
3 miles, especially because, that thing's just so long and goes on forever. Oh, I couldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it
Okay.
without them, really.
Okay. I think either direction is amazing, but that definitely solidified mine.
Yeah.
Megan,
Yeah.
I just had a quick question on the drop bags, or Priscilla, and maybe you covered this and I apologize. What's the procedure for the drop bags? Can we drop them off on Saturday? And then do you folks bring them out to the aid stations?
So, yeah, you can do either. You can drop them off Saturday at packet pickup, or you can drop them off on Sunday morning at your whichever start line you're at. We take them. So we will make sure that you mark them with your bib number. If you do not mark them with your bib number on the correct bag, that will say aid station 1 or aid station 2 with the address on it. We cannot tell you that your drop bag will be there. You have to make sure that you mark it and that it's going to the correct aid station. From there, we will make sure it gets there.
Okay.
So,
And then my second question was, is the trail well marked, or is a GPS download recommended? Watch, phone, whatever. What do you guys say about that?
It is, here's our marking procedure. It is over marked. If you get off the course, bless you. It is marked with a flag, hanging tape or surveyor flag every less than 1/10 of a mile.
Okay.
Every turn is double marked, triple marked with signs and surveyor flags. Every place where you could get off the trail is marked with either a straight or a wrong way or both. There wasn't a single time that I ever thought that I wasn't on the course. And I even had it downloaded on my watch. And I will say this, Strava will tell you you're off course more times and you'll start being like, what the hell? I'm staring at tape.
Right.
Because Strava goes in a straight line and does not go with the curvatures of a real trail. So
Okay.
I did download it on my watch and used it because it just makes me, I'm just a weirdo and I need something to look at sometimes, but it is not necessary. It is extremely well marked.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't use it either. I think Sarah Hampton's the only one who got remotely lost once because she went into a bathroom and then went out the wrong door. And
that was 2 years ago. That was not this course. That was 2 years ago course.
I will show you guys the sweatshirt. Priscilla, do you want to tell them about it or do you want me to?
Oh, I'll tell them.
Okay.
So if Megan and I figured something out when we got on the train last year, because I hadn't ridden the train either. There is a special stamp that you can only get on the train leaving Thurmond. So if you have a national park passport, bring it. You can only get this stamp on this train. And there is a national park lady who wants to give it to you really badly. And so this stamp on the back of this sweatshirt is, it doesn't have the bridge in it and things. We added that. But she gives you like this little pamphlet that's all about this train and gives you this Rails to Trails stamp. And so we took the pamphlet and made this. Megan made this off of the pamphlet and the stamp. So it's like super exciting to us because we got this stamp and we didn't know we were going to get it, and we were like so happy about it. So this is a crew neck sweatshirt this year. So this is the back. Megan, do you have the front?
Yeah.
And then the front is just the name of the race and Race the Train. So we're super excited about it.
When so I guess, and I guess I will say this, it's 8 o'clock, it's 8:05. If anyone needs to drop, go ahead. We'll sort of start just chatting. So this is the last train that leaves out of Thurmond, and it might be late. It probably,
it probably will be late. It probably will be late.
You are tired, but this train comes rolling in, and everyone is just so excited to celebrate together.
We have champagne on the
we break out
platform.
the champagne, and everyone is you spend 50 minutes taking this train back through these miles that you just covered on foot, and everyone is just, there's this feeling of accomplishment and pride and of this shared journey that we all just covered together over the course of 14, 12, however many hours. And we like, a lot of us do this because we love trails and we love going through these natural spaces and exploring the country on foot. And so to get this stamp that, first of all, is only available on a train, and second of all, they have this woman who is specifically dedicated just to riding this Amtrak train and telling people about this beautiful space. We just felt we wanted to really honor the national park that we get to run through. There are not hardly any races that actually run through a national park, and so that's really special to us. So we wanted to honor that with this. So we really hope, even our 50K runners, we know it might be a long day for you if you're a little bit faster, but we have the barbecue going, and we have just this, this finish line where we're trying to celebrate every runner that's coming through. So we really hope that everyone sticks around and celebrates and cheers. And it was really cool last year. I was sitting there, and even if you couldn't see the person coming through, someone would start screaming as a person was coming around the corner towards the finish line. And it really just felt like everyone was so excited for each finisher that came across. And then we all took the train back together through the gorge. So I really hope everyone gets to stick around and enjoy the entire experience. It's just it's a really special race. You don't just, yes, if you need to leave, obviously, please do. But like, it's just a really cool feeling of community that happens over this weekend. So yeah, anyway, if there are more questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, Megan, show the other thing, because
the other thing. Can I show that?
Yeah, we're close enough. So this
shoot.
is true insider information here.
All right. Give me a second.
There will only be a few tweaks to this if it gets tweaked. We're making sure. I'll tell you when she shows it. But Lori, you can add the train. I would say add it sooner rather than later, because we will sell out of tickets that we do buy for it. But no, you can add it onto your registration at any time. But sooner rather than later, especially as big as our race already is this year, it's going to continue to grow.
Sorry, it's going to take me a second.
It's in our email somewhere.
There we go. Yeah,
it's worth the wait. It's very unique.
Okay, I got it. There we go. Okay. All right, here, let me share my screen. Okay, can y'all see?
Yeah. This is the medal.
All
So
right, there we go.
we're making sure that it has, so we're trying to have 3 layers of the medal. So it'll have a base, the darker green will be one layer, and then the gold layer will be another layer. But we were going off of the vintage train ticket kind of look. And then Megan and I really, really, really love the bridge, and we like to incorporate it in everything. And we really like the national park. Again, we work really hard to make sure the national park theme is met with all of the things that we do. So, and this is the ribbon at the top of the screen is what Megan's rolling to. So it looks like train tracks. Similar to last year's, if you had it, we loved the ribbon so much, we kept it. But we took a vintage train ticket and talked through it and came up with this. So we're really excited about it. We spend way too much time on this race because we really love it. And then one thing we didn't talk about was the packet pickup moved to Fayetteville to its Waterstone. What's it called, Megan?
Outdoors. Waterstone Outdoors.
And they have beer, they have coffee. It's a really cool climbing, hiking, outdoor store in downtown Fayetteville. It's adorable. So just be prepared for that. It's going to be a really awesome add to our experience. And since most of us stay in Fayetteville anyway, it's helpful for it to be there. And then Montgomery again, I think, is doing food afterwards when we get off the train in Montgomery. And that was lovely. They had appetizers and snacks and pizza, and it was great to have that with Montgomery after. So just be prepared for that too.
It's a long day, but it's worth it. And the medal this year is made of metal. Last year we did a wooden medal, but this one will be made of metal. Seems weird to say. Yeah. And then I think there we go. I think that's kind of it. If anyone has any more questions, we're happy to answer them. The only other thing that had come to my mind was just looking at the profile of the race. So if anyone wants to hang out, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to look through it with you. But I think that kind of covers it. Does anyone have any questions, or we kind of good?
I actually have a question for Caleb. Caleb, can you give some tips on training for descents? Because I feel like I was fine on the climbing. The descents tore me apart.
Sure.
Do you have some advice for that?
So it's getting back to that like muscular fatigue resistance I was talking about. So things that you can do to prepare for lots of descending would be leg strength that includes a eccentric muscle contraction. So the reason that you get so beat up on downhills is because your muscles are bracing to prevent a range of motion. It's an eccentric muscle contraction, and it causes more micro damage than a concentric muscle contraction, which is when you're pulling toward a range of motion. It's why Boston beats people up and that sort of thing. So the ways to get ready for that are to build up your strength in those muscles, so particularly the quads. So that would be any sort of exercises that are quad dominant, whether they be single leg, like split squats, or single leg step ups or step downs from a bench. If you really want to get super prepared, there's 2 other things you can add. One is some plyometric jumping, starting really, really simple and building your way up to some more involved plyometric routines. There's tons and tons of them that you can find on YouTube. But I would just make sure that you're not jumping in literally on a high level, because you will probably hurt yourself. So the best thing you could do for starters is to get the shortest possible step from a gym, so like a 6-inch one, and just practice jumping down from that and back up a lot of times. It's gonna simulate that pounding and start to build up that fatigue resistance to the eccentric muscle contraction. So that's one thing, is a little bit of plyometrics. The other thing is, if you have the ability to hop on a treadmill that has a decline function, that really, really helps, because even though it's only going to be a couple % of a decline, the combination of the belt pulling toward you and the decline is going to cause that same exact eccentric muscle contraction. If you can't get on a decline treadmill, you can do some flat treadmill running, and that's getting pretty close. So at the end of the day, what you're trying to prepare for is that repetitive impact on the quads and other big muscles in your legs. And so you just want to work in some training strategies that would help sort of build up that resistance to those repetitive impacts.
Thank you, Caleb.
Sure.
That was my one thing that I was unprepared for last year, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Downhill running you do adapt to it. So just like any other stimulus, the more you do it, the more you would adapt to it. I would just kind of work that in here and there every couple of weeks, something that's sort of like focused on that. And that'll help you. Yeah.
And I mean, so everyone, just if you've never done one of these virtuals with us before, we will now sit here and talk. I don't know. We will just sit here and talk. So you are welcome to hang out and stay. I was going to show something. I was going to show the elevation profile. If you need to drop, go ahead and drop. Thank you so much for joining us. Megan, go ahead. What's your question?
I just have a question. As far as, because I'm going to be walking most of the 50K, and so I'm just worried about whether I'm going to make the cutoff. So if you weren't able to make the cutoff, the hard cutoff for the 50K, would you have transportation to the train if you were taking the train?
Yes. So somebody would take you from one of our race people would take you from that aid station to the end.
Where the train, because if you have the
Yes.
ticket for the train,
Yep.
okay. Okay. I just wanted to verify that.
And do know that people hike this 50K. I hiked it last year. My mom hikes it. She's hiking it again. She's one of the ambassadors. People hike this 50K all the time. So as long as you're watching your time, you're training, you're going to be just fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was just going to show hold on, sorry, I got to share this real quick. I was going to show the elevation profile. And Caleb, if you need to go, you can too. Don't feel like you have to hang out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I actually am jumping because I've got to go help with baby duty. So thanks to everybody, and I will see you next time.
I'm jumping as well, but I'll hopefully see everybody at the next virtual clinic. And if anybody has any training questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Caleb.
All right. Good night.
I was just going to show you guys real quick a couple of things. So this climb right here goes from 6.7 to 9.3. And if you start zooming in, you've got like 7% grade. There's a couple spots that are pretty steep, but this climb, it's long, but it's not as crazy as it looks if you start to zoom in a little bit. What really gets people are these little descents right here, because they're steep descents and you're not expecting them. So that's where Priscilla and I are talking about, like the quads, this little, or sorry, I shouldn't say it's little, this descent right here. Everyone focuses a lot on the climbing, but the descending is sort of what gets you, because then when you get to this flat section right here, you could really run this if you don't toast your quads. If you do, you'll be walking a pretty flat runnable section. And then this little bugger right here, and tell me if you can't see my cursor, but this little bugger right here at the end is this little like rock climbing section where I felt like I was literally climbing a rock climbing wall, and then other people looked like they were just gracefully jogging up some rocks. So, you know, everyone's got different skill sets. But I think the most important thing that I noticed was don't ignore the little downhill sections that you see on there. The climbing is obviously very important, but so is the stuff that Coach Caleb was talking about with the descending. And just make sure that you're actually zooming in on the chart if you're not used to that. But other than that, you know, any other questions? How's everyone doing? Anyone got any major concerns? Anything stressing them out at the moment, or are we all kind of feeling good? Good. All right. Well, I am going to, I think I'm going to tell everyone good night. But I'm feeling very excited. This is really, truly like one of my favorite races ever. I'm very excited to be out there running with you guys. I'm really looking forward to it. Our numbers are looking a lot bigger this year than last year. Oh, you're so welcome, Haley. So hopefully this will be a little bit bigger of a year. But when you get down there, what really strikes me about this is how invested all of Montgomery and Thurmond in particular are in the race. There are literally 5 people who live in Thurmond, and they all volunteer as part of the race. We were just on a call with Montgomery City Council because they want to do everything possible to accommodate our runners for camping and the post-race party and it's really cool to have these towns so committed to bringing our runners in here to experience this, because once you're there, yeah, right. The mayor literally came out at 5 a.m. last year. Like, you know, I mean, it's really cool. And I feel like we want to keep that small race experience while still showing as many people as possible how beautiful this area is. So anyway, if you're still here, thank you for hanging out. If you have any questions, I'll drop my email in the in-call messages. But everyone, good luck with the rest of your training as you start heading into these winter months. And we will see you guys. We'll see you guys. What is it, like a few weeks before the race? We'll do a virtual meeting with Coach Caleb and Priscilla and I and everyone again. So we'll see you guys soon. Have a great night, everyone.